David Begnaud is now with us from Bellaire, Texas, just outside of Houston. There you see him talking to some first responders there, and he has been on the ground there. And earlier he reported to us that for now, unless you are in a life or death situation, it will be very difficult for first responders to get to you, although they are working 24/7 to help those who may be in need. David, I know you were just talking there to one of the first responders. What did he have to say?
Yeah. Well, so he's with the Bellaire Police Department, and they're going to continue to use vehicles, big tire trucks like that, to get in and out. So where he's turning right here, they've lost power. When we arrived probably an hour and a half ago, they had the porch lights on, but the power has gone out there now. So in this area where we are, they're surrounded by water. Now, look, for the most part, the water in this area is ankle deep. But as you go further down, it becomes, thigh deep, then hip deep. So the fire department is right there, one of the stations here in Bellaire. They've got rescue boats pulled out in front. Now, right now, they are not doing rescues that involve situations that aren't life-threatening. In other words, if you're in your home, even if you've been there for 24 hours waiting for somebody to show up, you're going to have to wait because they're trying to give their crews some kind of break. I mean, they just don't have enough people. So they've said for non-life-threatening events, we're not going to respond until daybreak. But if you've got a life-threatening situation, we're on the way. There have apparently been a lot of medical episodes. In fact, I can tell you from personal experience, riding around in a boat yesterday, there were so many people who needed some kind of medical assistance. It was to the point where they were triaging them. It was like, okay, you need medical assistance, but you can at least wait this many hours, but this person needs medical assistance like right now, so we're going to get to them. A lot of people we've seen have been calling friends who have boats. So we were riding through a neighborhood yesterday where the water was, I'd say, thigh deep, and I yelled to a gentleman who had walked out on the porch with what appeared to be a family member of his who was pushing a stroller, and I said, hey, do you guys need some help? And he said, no, we called a friend, they're on the way. So a lot of people are waiting on friends. And speaking of friendly people, let me brag on the good folks of South Louisiana where I'm from. They're called the Cajun Navy, and they were made famous during Hurricane Katrina. When Katrina hit, these good old folks from Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, hooked up their boats and headed to New Orleans. Well, guess what? When the city of Houston put out a call yesterday saying, if you've got time and you've got a boat, come on down, the Cajun Navy activated, and they started heading west down I-10. But we also met a couple of other guys, two friends, one from College Station, Texas, the other from near the Dallas area. They were here for work, and they said, listen, this is more important than the money we're trying to make, so let's go help rescue people. Right now, if you are in contact with anyone who is in their home in need of help, the Coast Guard is asking you if you think the only way you can get out is via the roof of your home. The Coast Guard is asking you to put something on your rooftop that will distract the crews, the pilots, enough to get their attention to say, hey, that's a home where they could need help. It is impossible for us to say this morning how many people need help and are on a waiting list, so to speak. The family that we saw be rescued yesterday had started making calls to 911 12 to 14 hours before the civilian Samaritans got there. And when I asked the woman, what did 911 say? She said, they were really nice, but they essentially said to me, we'll put you on the list. Can you imagine that? I mean, one constant in life is that when you call 911, you know you're going to get help. And it's not that 911 doesn't want to help. It's just that they don't have the people. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I know we have the figure of, 2 people have died, but listen, those numbers are very loose right now because there are who knows how many people that haven't even been checked on yet.
David, you mentioned the Cajun Navy, and, during Katrina, Houston really rolled out the welcome mat for those Katrina evacuees. A couple 100,000 showed up in Houston. Many of them stayed and became residents of Houston, so I'm sure this is a sort of a recurring nightmare. But those guys with the boat, the Cajun Navy, they know how important it is for people who have the means to get out there and help.
Well, listen, Anne-Marie, I mean, anybody at home can fact check me on this, but I don't remember a time since Katrina where a call has gone out from a metropolitan city saying, if you've got a boat, come in and help us. And by the way, since we're talking about Katrina, tomorrow is the anniversary.
It is remarkable.
And a lot of people here, guys, as you said, Anne-Marie, moved here. So they got bussed out on a free ride, moved to Houston, and have been living in this area. And by the way, on social media, I couldn't help but notice a lot of people from New Orleans have been sending their love. You know, I mean, we don't mean to compare this to Katrina or make any kind of comparisons, but the bottom line is the good folks of New Orleans who went through Katrina, their hearts are with the people of Houston right now. And my producer made a good point. You know, one difference in terms of rescues with Katrina, when they were doing those rescues and it was blue skies, right? Because the storm moved in, then the levees broke. But even when the levees broke, for the most part, it wasn't raining. Here, they're doing the rescues and it's this. I mean, it's rain. I mean, this is light. But most of the time when we've been out in it, it is heavy, heavy stuff. And by the way, the bayous that have overtopped their banks are now flowing into roadways where, look, I mean, you've got a strong current going through it. So the civilian guys that we were with yesterday were kind of a little leery because the last thing you want to do is put these civilian rescuers in trouble. But it's not like there's anybody who's coordinating it. People are just simply driving around, finding water, putting a boat in, and taking off.
Wow.
David Begnaud reporting from Bellaire. David, I know that you've been there since the storm first made landfall. Wishing you and the producers and the crew some safety. But thank you very much for your reporting. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.